Welcome to Into the Void. I'm Itchy Braids,
I'm the co-host Ace.
and we are here with a special guest today. He goes by Hamza the Herbalist. I've known Hamza for quite some time. I consider him my spiritual guru, and we're just here interviewing him today. If you could you tell us a little about your life and upbringing?
Well, that's talking about somebody that doesn't exist anymore. But I was raised in the ghettos of New York, South Bronx actually, and it was a very intense life. Most of the people that I knew back then are either dead or in prison, and it's been a long journey. But here I am today.
To add on to that, what was the turning point for you to make that decision to erase the old self to bring in a new truer self?
That's part of human evolution. What happens is that the ego gets in the way and it sort of stunts our ability to be able to evolve. So, but I've had an interest since I was very young. I've always had a curiosity. I remember once when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I started crying. And my mother came up to me and she said, "Son, why are you crying?" And I said to her, "Mother, because one day I'm going to grow old and I'm going to die." So that was the beginning. Because when you start thinking about death when you're 4 or 5 years old, that means you're beginning to question life. And that's where it actually began. But throughout the years as I was growing, I've been in and out, being in the world, doing things, and then getting back into the spiritual path. Because this world will take you in another direction if you let it.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it does that from time to time. So it's kind of like an up and down sort of thing. You get spiritual, and then you'll forget about it for a while, and then you get back again when you're young. But then in later years, you begin to actually stabilize yourself even more as things are revealed to you. But things only revealed to you when you're ready to receive them. Sometimes we think we're ready for things, but we're really not.
Yeah.
And we wonder why things don't happen the way we expect them to happen, but it's because we're not ready.
How did you end up in Florida if you're from the Bronx?
Well, I actually was heading to Texas.
He's from Texas.
Oh, you're from Texas?
Yes.
Okay.
So everything you have been saying just resonated to me so on a deep level, because I'm in that spiritual journey as we speak. Like for the last pretty much this last 2 years, I've pretty much destroyed who I once was. Now I'm a new person, and then my old self is being tempted to come back. And now I'm battling right now against I'm gonna call him my shadow self. My true raw anger, that because of how I was raised and my upbringing. So I'm clashing right now. Currently right now, I'm trying to integrate it as one person, as one being. So the calmness of me now versus my shadow self, I'm trying to integrate it to be all one right now.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to actually accomplish. And the reason why it's difficult is because of the ego. And it's because of what we have been taught. I recently been making some videos on the ego. The ego is not something that is a physical part of us, or it isn't a biological thing that we're born with. The ego actually is a global phenomenon. It's the direction that the world took. And so as we're raised up, when we're children, the minute that we're born, we don't have any thoughts. We actually think that we and mother are one. We don't see the separation. Mm-hmm. But then we're taught that separation. And as we grow, we begin to get conditioned by the priest in the church, in the school, and the mass media, and our parents even. So the things that we are conditioned to actually go back uncountable amount of generations. It just keeps passing on. It changes a little bit, it modifies, it changes, but who we think we are doesn't exist. What we are actually is nothing but fragments of all the people that we've met. And we take this from this person and that from that person, and we'll accept this and we'll accept that. We'll believe this belief from the pastor of the church, and we mix that all together, kind of like making soup. According to what you put in it is the flavor you're going to get. So according to the people that you come in contact with and you accept into yourself, that makes your personality. So your personality is not actually a personality. It's made up of the collective ego in which you were raised. You see?
Okay.
That's why nobody is really guilty of anything. That's why the Christ said, he said, judge not that ye be not judged. There's no reason to judge. Do you see?
Yes, sir.
So that is what happens. And as you begin to evolve spiritually, you get to a point where you'll realize that you don't actually exist as an individual. And that's a very difficult thing for people to be able to grasp, because what you are is pure awareness and consciousness. You see?
Yeah.
So we're not actually a human having a spiritual existence. We're actually a spirit having a human experience, and that spirit is one with the infinite consciousness or the infinite spirit, which we call Brahman.
Okay. I have one more question. Yes. Can we elaborate on Brahma?
Yes. Brahman is a Sanskrit name for God, or the Supreme Being, or infinite consciousness.
Okay.
And there's two branches actually. There's Sadguna Brahman and there's Naguna Brahman. And Sadguna Brahman would be a God with attributes. A God with attributes is something that many religions practice, where they consider themselves to be separate from God. But in actuality, Naguna Brahman is the actual Brahman, which means there are no attributes, that everything is Brahman, everything is God. Every single thing, that nothing in creation exists that is not God. You see? And so a lot of people adopt Sadguna Brahman, or the God with attributes, because it makes it easier for them to be able to relate. A long time ago, people said, well, God is infinite, and if he's infinite, well, it's hard to understand. Well, if he's infinite, then that means he could have attributes. We don't have to give him a form, but we could give him attributes. So they began to say, well, okay, he's the all-merciful, he's the all-loving, he's the all-knowing, and they started applying those attributes to Naguna, and started worshiping Sadguna Brahman. Okay. Then after that, they said, well, fire doesn't have a form, so let's say he's fire. And then they started worshiping Brahman through fire, and it went on like that. Okay. That's how they came about.
How long have you been into herbs, or working with herbs?
Well, it's been something that's probably goes back to my family. But in the earlier years, I wasn't interested. I was interested. I always had an interest in biology and botany, but I never really focused on it because I was always doing other things. I was a young man, in a big world, and I was experimenting what was out there. But it comes from a long time ago. And then the reason why I finally settled down into it was because a long time ago I went to a place called I took a thing called the Forum. It was a weekend retreat. It was at the Landmark Education. It exists today. It's an international organization, and they're kind of spiritual. It was a 3-day thing, and then half a day on Tuesday, I think. So I took that course, and that course had a lot of spiritual content to it. And so when I left the course, I met with a friend of mine. She lives in Miami. I know her and her husband. I've known them for a long time. And we sat down, and I was saying, well, and they asked me, well, now that you took the course, what are you going to do? And I thought about it. And Dora is her name. Dora asked me, she said, well, what do you want to do? And I thought about it for a little while, and I said, I want to relieve the pain and suffering of the world. And I think I can do that through natural medicine, through herbs. And that is the moment that I became stabilized in herbs and medicine. So I went that path for many years. I'm still doing it to a degree, not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But I've since evolved, and I've come to the conclusion that the ultimate healing is the healing of one's spirit, the being able to become realized and wake up to the reality of what and who we really are.
It's deep.
That's really deep. Like, just by listening to you, my mind has just expanded just now. Because, like, the things that I thought I knew have just been expanded upon. For me, my spiritual journey is that I just came out of a break, like the ups and downs. Because there would be, like, 3 months I'm just active in spirituality, and then I'll just stop and just kind of relax or plateau. And then something just snaps me back in, and then I kind of plateau. I was going to ask you, what are the foods that you eat or the things that you put in your body? Because at least for me, when it comes to like meat and stuff, I don't like going to the grocery stores. I would try to go to the butcher, get it fresh from there. Because at least I feel like I know it's real compared to these 3D printed meats and stuff. What's going on? I rather feel that I know what I'm putting in my body.
And that's a very good move. That's a smart move. My approach to food is sort of scientific. I know that a lot of people who are on the spiritual path are vegans. I'm not a vegan. I practice Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta is fundamentally what I practice, but I don't really tie myself to anything. Because anytime you tie yourself to a particular school of thought or a particular religion, it means that you have to reject all the others. And that I consider to be an act of violence. You see? So I don't adhere to any one particular, the foundation is Advaita Vedanta, which is the path of not two, but that everything is one, or Naguna Brahman, you see? But I realized that there's a place for Sadguna Brahman as well. And so I've done some videos on that, because the reason that I felt compelled to make videos on that was because, we live in a reality, and if you hear a lot of spiritual teachers, they say that this is not real, that this is an illusion or a dream. And indeed it is. We can say it is a dream. But why do we say it's not a reality? The reason we say it's not a reality because a reality has to be something that is always there. If it comes and it goes, then it's not real. Anything that's real should always be there, right? If you have a car, and every time you go out of the house to ride your car and the car is there, then you assume that the car is real. But if every now and then when you went out and the car wasn't there, then you're going to doubt its reality. You see?
Okay.
So, and this a lot of people don't speak about, but I've been speaking about this lately, is that the reason why this is not a reality, or this is a dream, is not because there's not a reality content to it, but because there are an infinite amount of realities that exist. The fish, for instance, that lives in the water, its reality is completely different from ours. The dolphin, the bat that flies without sight, the flower, the bee that can see so many different things, the dog that can hear sounds that we don't even know exist. You see? Our reality is determined by the limitations of our senses. If you were to increase your eyesight and you were to look at that wall, you wouldn't see that wall. You would see atoms and electrons and neutrons. You see?
Yeah, sure.
So reality would change. if your hearing increased, you would hear sounds that you don't hear now. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
So reality is based on the limitations of our senses. That is what determines that reality.
That just I just love this information because it just opens my eyes to just new possibilities. At first, it was like very linear, but as the spiritual journey takes us, because I know me and Gyro has been expanding our minds. Because for him, I didn't know anything about herbs as well until I met him, and he told me about you. I was into frequencies because I was learning that on my own, because I understand certain frequencies improve the body's health, some do negative distortions to it. So coming here to meet with you is a blessing to me, and I guarantee it's a blessing to him. And this right here, we're getting information from you to not only feed in information that not most people know about, but this is also a healing thing for everyone.
And you know what you mentioned about frequencies is in fact true. Do you know that a long time ago the frequency of music was 524 hertz, which was calming and relaxing, and they changed it. Now it's a different hertz which creates chaos. Classical music is 524 hertz, and there's other frequencies that have different kind of effects on the body. If you can find some of these, I think on YouTube, if you look up hertz 524 frequency, it gives you different frequencies for healing and that sort of thing. But one has to be careful, about because you would have to be trusting the person who's putting out this frequency.
Yeah.
So I prefer to listen to classical music, old classical music, because I know that's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. And it has the right frequency for me.
Yeah. For me, I love music. Music has been a part of my life. And then once I found out what frequencies and certain songs that I used to listen to, I pretty much just stopped listening to it. Because now, since I became more spiritual, certain songs I used to love, I understand that they had a frequency, a very low frequency, where it was I saw someone put like sand down and played that specific frequency. The pattern was so distorted. Mm-hmm. And then they played a 524. It came out this beautiful shape, all organized. And then they switched it back to a even lower frequency, and it made a shape, but it was so chaotic that it couldn't make a true shape. Mm-hmm. It was just everywhere. Like it made a ring. The ring was perfect, but what was within that ring was chaotic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, and this is what we will be listening to on a daily basis on the radio. So I don't listen to the radio. I play music that kind of relaxes me, or I would say high energy, good vibes, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to be careful in these days, because now with the coming of artificial intelligence, they're using frequencies to control people even more. They've done it for many years. Years ago, long time ago, they used to. You could go to a movie, and you could be watching a movie of somebody in the desert struggling, with no water, trying to, and then all of a sudden they would put one block in the film mm-hmm. of an ice cold Coca-Cola with the bubbles fizzing and the drops of coolness, condensation coming down the thing. And ice, and you wouldn't see it because it will go by so quick. Mm-hmm. But you'll be sitting there watching this guy walking through the desert, and all of a sudden you'll get up and go and buy a Coca-Cola. You see?
Oh, the subliminals.
Yeah. So now it's even more. Now it's even worse, especially with what's going on today in the world.
With that being said, before we go into the topic of what's going on in the world, do you believe in space? Do you believe space is a real place that people can travel?
Time and space all occurs within infinite consciousness or awareness. it's within there. See, in space, we look at space as we have we look at it linear, okay? And then they would say, oh, this place is 3 miles down the road, and that, so it has to have a point. And in infinity, there are no points because there's no beginning and no end. So there's no center point. You see? Incidentally, that's why each one of us in our own right has the right to be the center of our lives and the center of everything around us. A friend called me up from New York this morning, and she was very worried because her niece had gotten in a very terrible accident. And I told her, you need not to be the moon. You need not to be reflecting what is animated from the people around you, because she was having a hard time with people coming in and telling her things that, I said, you're there to help her heal. So you have to be the sun.
Yeah.
You can't be the moon. If you're the moon, then you're just reacting to what people say. When you're like that, when you reflect, there's 2 ways of living in this world. Reflecting from people. You're driving down the street, someone cuts you off and you get angry. Your blood pressure goes up. That's living in reflection. That's not being the center. So to be the center is nothing affects you but the people around you. You see? You have that, you are the center. You have the right to be the center. You have the right to be the one Brahman. Understand that we are not separate from Brahman. We only think that we're separate from Brahman. We're like, imagine awareness or infinite consciousness of Brahman to be like an infinite ocean, and a wave comes up on that ocean. That wave appears to be separate, be on top of the surface of the ocean, but then after a while, what does it do? It just goes right back into the ocean. And even when it's a wave, it is only a wave because the ocean is there. So you are only you right now, your awareness, because Brahman is there, because God is there, or infinite consciousness is there. So that's why the Christ, which I don't refer to too much because Christianity is it's been really, but the Christ he was real. He went to India, he went to Tibet, and he studied. But he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, for the Father is in me and I am in the Father. That's what he was saying. That there is no difference between us and God. There is nothing but God. You see?
As much, I'm just learning so much from you, sir. It's giving me a new perspective, because I'm in a stage right now of trying to understand we are all one, because I've been thinking as it separately, but I understand that we're all one. So I was battling on, teetering on, are we truly individuals, or we're all one? And now you have cleared up a lot of that mess for me.
It goes on. There's a lot still ahead, because in the spiritual realm, as they call it, there is no end. The best place to be is the place of not knowing, because there's something new to know.
That is a very deep quote. That's a quote right there.
On the topic of Brahman, is Brahman a positive force or is it neutral?
It is neither positive nor neutral. Positive and neutral is within Brahman. Everything is within Brahman. Everything that exists is within Brahman. There's only Brahman. When your consciousness, when you're aware of something, you sit back and you have no thoughts in your head. At that moment, your awareness, that which knows, that is Brahman in you. But what happens in this life, we walk around wearing rose-tinted glasses. So if you look at the snow, you see rose-colored snow, but it's not that color. But it's only because of these tinted glasses that we wear for this life that we see it that way.
The current state of the world, do you think Well, what do you think of the current state of the world right now?
That's a very long subject. It really is, because we're in the age of the Kali Yuga. There's cycles, and this has been talked about 5,000-6,000 thousands of years ago. There's according to the Sanskrit Vedas, there's man goes through cycles. There's a golden cycle, a silver cycle, a bronze cycle, and an iron cycle. And we're now in the iron cycle. Is when man is most degenerated, where there's hardly any spirituality. Doesn't mean that we don't continue on. This is the best time to exist, because back then, all those wise sages to be born in the Kali Yuga, where you really tested. They wanted that. They want that test. They want that test. The current state of affairs right now, it's exactly what it's supposed to be. The ego has taken over. The ego has been growing and expanding itself, and it's all about greed and power. The other day, out of curiosity, I asked AI a question. I think I said this before. I don't know. I may have said this. Sometimes I might repeat myself. I apologize for that. But I asked AI a question. I said, because I was thinking about the ego, and I thought to myself, I said, well, I don't think the ego is real. I don't think it's a part of us. So I think it's more like something that happened in the world. So I asked this question to AI. I said, do you think that is the ego a part, a biological or a physical part of man, or is it a global phenomenon and therefore a mistake of the mind?
What did it tell you?
Well, the first thing it said was a very good question.
It is.
And it said actually that that ego is a mistake of the mind. You see, but it's not a mistake that we made. It's a mistake that was made a long time ago. And I'm going to make a video about that, because I believe that it has a lot to do with our basic instincts. Because we evolved. We weren't like, formed, out of clay and God blew breath into us, because that creates separation. We evolved, and we're still evolving. And evolution never ends. The problem with mankind is that he has never been able to evolve past the ego. And it's been now, I'm going to say, and I can't verify this, but I'm going to say that humanity has probably recycled itself maybe 6 times, I think. That's why you see those pyramids and those ancient temples, and even modern day technology cannot figure out how they did some of the things they did.
Yeah.
Because they were so advanced. But then they were advanced, and then they were destroyed. So most of that has disappeared. There's been civilizations that are so old, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of years, that they've completely disintegrated. There's nothing left of them. They're in the rocks, in the sand, in the dirt, in the trees that we see. They're existing in that, because they've been completely disintegrated. Even today, they say plastic is a thing that it'll always be there. Eventually it'll decompose and become something else.
Right. And
maybe 1,000 years from now, we'll have another mineral, of some kind, you see.
Oh, wow.
these ancient civilizations, how do you think they met their downfall? Do you think it was natural disaster?
The same way that mankind today is going to meet their downfall, by the ego. Because the ego is about trying to get more power, trying to get happy. I can tell you, I don't know if you have enough time, but I can tell you how that happens.
Oh yeah, we have time.
Okay, here's what happens. When we're born, because we come from the one Brahman, in order for us to be born in a human form, there's a separation. We're actually separated temporarily from Brahma, from the one. That separation creates a void, an emptiness inside of us that we don't know how it got there. We only feel it. Okay? So then, as we begin to grow and our parents begin to teach us and we begin to learn things from the environment, the collective ego begins to feed us, we still have that void, that emptiness inside of us. So that void prevents us from being happy or for seeking what we think is happiness, you see? Mm-hmm. So then we want to feel that happiness. So then the ego, which is formed from, as I said before, it's a global phenomenon, so it comes from the outside in. Mm-hmm. The ego, knowing only this world, only the material things, it says, well, how am I going to feel this happiness? I know. If I marry her, I'll be happy. If I marry him, I'll be happy. If I buy that car, I'll be happy. If I get a good job, I'll be happy. If I make $1 million, I'll be happy. And the ego will always be looking for something outside to make it happy. And that's called desire. And that's where desire comes from. You see? So as we continue out there trying to find this happiness outside, all we experience a moment of happiness. But I think that moment of happiness is because we no longer have the desire that we had. Yeah. You see? It's like the man who all his life he wanted a red shiny Lamborghini. And he was never able to buy it, but then an uncle died and left him $1 million. And first thing he did is he went out and bought a shiny red Lamborghini. He was happy. But the Lamborghini can't make him happy. It's made out of metal and paint and plastic and glass. How can metal, paint, and plastic and glass make you happy? Perhaps he was happy because he no longer had the desire to want the Lamborghini. You see? And after a while, the Lamborghini is no longer what it was to him before he desired it. Right. It just becomes a car just like any other one. And then he has to find something else to try to find happiness. Wow. And this is the way people live their lives. And they never achieve it. They never achieve that happiness because that happiness can't be found outside of you. Mm-hmm.
Does living like that lead to more suffering?
Yes. That is the primary cause of suffering, right there. But suffering is a good thing. If it wasn't for suffering, we wouldn't be having this conversation we're having now. Because everybody at some point, not everybody, some people unfortunately have to do it all over again. But when somebody suffers, they begin to question, is this all there is? Is there not something else that can make me happy? I mean, I've tried everything, even somebody, Michael Jackson, fame and fortune, had everything, any other actor, and they say, well, you have a lot of great actors with millions of followers commit suicide because they realize after getting all of that, they got fame and fortune and people who adore them. And they realize, wow, I'm not happy. Do you see? Mm-hmm. So that's what happens, is that nothing out there can make you happy. The way to happiness is by asking yourself this question: who or what am I?
I remember asking myself those questions when I was a young kid. Because as a young kid, I've been through a lot. And I used to question, life is not this way. It shouldn't be this way. So I will consider myself the black sheep of my family. I've done a lot of things to get me to this point. And I come to find out that it was a blessing in disguise for everything that has happened. There was a reason why certain things didn't work out the way they did. And some things that the reason why they did work out. I give you at least a story for my adventure to being in Florida. I moved here the first time in 2014. My mom was offered a schooling, everything was paid for, so she moved me and my three other brothers here. And someone lied to her that it was fully covered. They covered like the entry fee, but not the entire thing. So my mom, she moved back with my brothers, but I stayed here with my aunt and uncle. And after my school year was done, they sent me back to Texas. But within my core or soul, I wanted to be back here in Florida. So a year and a half goes by. The same uncle who brought me back to Florida said he was coming me back. And he came and gave me a proposal with me and my older cousin that we share the same birthday, just a year apart. He denied the offer because he let other people talk him out of it. I was already on board. I came here and my life has been completely different. And there were so many times they tried to bring me back and I had to deny it because I knew there was nothing for me to improve back at home.
When you said that you were the black sheep of the family, that is an honor to be in that position, because that means that you were no longer following the generational conditioning of that line. Do you see?
Yes, sir.
The minute, because when you said that, it reminded me of my youth as well, because I was also considered to be the black sheep of the family. Do you see? And that is a unique position, because were you not the black sheep of the family, you would have followed right along with everything, and you would not be asking the questions that you're asking now. You may now be in some different kind of situation, not even looking in this direction. Mm-hmm. But even though you were born into one family, it doesn't mean that you came from that one family. Your incarnation could be of somebody who was seeking at one time and then was born into this particular family, and now you're living the continuation to a point, and there's a lot to be said about that, because what survives doing one incarnation to another is not the personality. Personality belongs to the life that lived it at that time, but what survives are some of the tendencies or samskaras of that time. Mm-hmm. And that is what takes you on, because all you are is awareness, and that is what took you out of that. So it's actually an honor to be in that sort of a position. You see?
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but as I got older, because I am the oldest sibling in my household, mm-hmm. So to my younger brothers, they look up to me, and I don't really like to talk about their business, but I don't like comparing either, but compared to my three other brothers, I don't want to brag, but I am living a lot better compared to my other brothers. You may relate to this, but every once in a while I feel like, did I really make the best decision? Right now I feel like I made the best decision, because I can now truly help them. I'm in a better position to help them than I would ever been still being with them.
Don't worry about that, because if you start thinking about whether you made the right decision or the wrong decision, the ego will come in and try to tell you that you made the wrong decision. I would equate the ego to what Christians equate to Satan. If you look at the qualities of Satan, the so-called Satan, because there's no, as far as I'm concerned, there's no devil, but the way they describe Satan, mm-hmm. besides horns and a tail, they say that he is deceitful, that he's a liar, that he is cunning, that he's jealous, and all of those qualities that they attribute to their Satan, you can attribute to the ego.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So don't think about now, because the only thing that exists right now is the present moment. Time is an illusion. There's no such thing as time. Tomorrow, supposedly when the sun makes another turn and it begins to rise up on the east, and you wake up, you're going to be now. You're not going to be you can never catch up to the future, just like you can never go back to the past. It's all one moment, and everything is happening. Your whole life is happening in that moment. It's not time. Time is an invention of man. They seen how many times the sun was going around the planet, or the planet was going around the sun. I'm sorry, Galileo. and so they decided to invent a calendar and make time. But time isn't real. All it is the present moment. And so if you start thinking, if you say that well, sometimes I think I made the wrong decision, then you're in the past. You see? Because you're trying to look back on something. No, you're in the present moment. This is it. There is no right decision. There's no bad decision. There is what's going on right now, and that's the way to look at it. Always.
Well, Vic, you've given both us and the viewers a lot to think about. One more question that I have. If you could give advice to any of the youth or anybody watching, what would you tell them?
Well, this is a trying time, as we can see. And I don't know your audience. I don't know what it consists of, but I would imagine it's young people. And we're living in a very difficult time. The older generations, for the most part, they have been so overtaken with greed that they have no consideration for even their own children. So it's up to the youth to take up the banner and to struggle to make this world a better place. Now, of course, like I said before, this is one reality of many, and many times even I have referred to this existence as a dream. But if it's a dream, then I say dream it well. And when you dream it with your convictions. Because if you're on a spiritual path, then that means that your nature, your divine nature, is unconditional love. And the reason why it's unconditional love is because of the separation that we experience to be able to be manifesting on this planet as individual humans. That separation and that inclination to return to the oneness, that is what unconditional love is. It's very natural. And so when you look at your fellow man and you see somebody who may do something wrong, something that you don't like, try to look past the personality and see that they're only a manifestation of the God in you. And this is just another personality playing out another role, as if we're all on this cosmic stage playing different parts, and eventually we're all going to evolve and wake up. That's all I can say right now.
That's a nice piece of information. Do you have any?
I don't want to take up any more of your time because I can be here for hours with you.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to try to get you on another episode if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. It's good talking.
Thank you for giving us your time, Evan.
You.
On my butt.
Now here's the thing I'm going to tell you, right? You got Sophie, which is a little one back there who's pregnant, right? Okay. And you got these three. Now, the way you're going to feed them is you're going to put half of that on one side and half in the other. Okay. And then you're going to put the bucket in the middle and you're going to stand there and not let these three get into her food.
Oh, okay. So, which one is her food?
Her food is this.
Okay.
Now, these three, come on.
This is definitely going to be on the... You're going to clip this. This is definitely going on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So I'll let you get in here first before they get in there, because they're kind of afraid of you right now. So
Okay, good. I got the...
they'll get in there. Now,
We got one.
that's so good. Okay, now put some of that food in there, about half of it. Right in here, right here. About half, okay. Now put the other half over here.
Okay.
Hip, hip, hip. Come on, Wrangler, go.
And then
Now stay in the middle.
I have a little bit still left in here.
Give it to her. But she's pregnant. Okay, now put the bucket in the middle.
Yeah. Let me get the rest of it.
Yeah.
And put it right.
No, put it right up there and stand there and don't let these get to her. Come on. Come on, baby. Come on.
I'm supposed to be stopping?
Yeah. No, don't. Yeah. Stand in the middle and don't shoo them. Just don't let them get over here. Go ahead, mama. Come on, mama. Come on, baby. See, she's nervous. Come on, baby. Come on. Okay, they're not gonna do it. They're afraid of you. All right.
I'm a cheat code today.
Right over there now, huh? Watch them. They'll come. Come on, mama. Yep. Come on. Go in. Call Rango.
Ringo.
Rango.
Come on, baby.
Hey, buddy.
He said, oh, I'm going back. I'm gonna step further this way.
All right, you.